Fans just noticed these hidden details about Barış Arduç and Elçin Sangu. Everything looks different now. There's a moment in a 2019 interview where Barış Arduç goes completely quiet. The journalist asks him something about his personal life, and instead of answering, he just smiles. Not the kind of smile you perform for a camera. Something smaller. Something real. And if you watch it back now, knowing everything that came after, that silence hits completely differently. Because sometimes the things people don't say tell you more than anything they ever could. For years, Turkish entertainment fans watched Barış Arduç and Elçin Sangu as two separate forces. Two of Turkey's most beloved actors. Critically acclaimed. Massively popular. Constantly in the public eye. And yet somehow, hiding something in plain sight that millions of people completely missed. Until now. Over the last few weeks, a wave of fans across YouTube, Reddit, and Twitter started going back through old interviews, red carpet footage, behind-the-scenes clips, and social media archives. And what they found sent shockwaves through the fandom. Small details. Repeated patterns. Moments that were dismissed at the time as nothing, that suddenly, when you line them all up together, paint a picture that nobody expected. This is not a gossip story. This is something stranger and more interesting than that. Because the hidden details fans uncovered aren't just about a relationship. They're about two people who are exceptionally good at showing the world exactly what they want it to see, and occasionally, just occasionally, letting something real slip through the cracks. By the end of this, you're going to look at both of them completely differently. And you're going to wonder how you missed it for so long. Let's start at the beginning, because that's where the first overlooked detail lies. Barış Arduç entered the Turkish entertainment industry with the kind of quiet confidence that makes casting directors nervous in the best possible way. He wasn't loud about his ambition. He didn't oversell himself in interviews. He showed up, delivered work that was genuinely difficult to ignore, and let his performances speak. His breakout roles demonstrated a range that surprised critics who had initially categorized him as just another handsome face in a crowded industry. Elçin Sangu came from a different angle entirely. Her path to stardom was marked by a relentless work ethic that industry insiders have spoken about openly. She was the kind of actress who would spend weeks inhabiting a character before a single camera rolled. She carried a reputation for being deeply serious about her craft, emotionally intelligent on screen, and intensely private off it. Two people. Two very different public personalities. Both masters at controlling their own narrative. And that, fans now realize, is exactly what made everything so hard to see. The first detail that resurfaced recently came from a 2018 public event. Both Barış and Elçin were in attendance. They were photographed separately, as expected. They gave separate interviews. But one eagle-eyed fan, going through archival footage this year, noticed something in the background of a video clip that had nothing to do with either of them. In the far left corner of the frame, for approximately 4 seconds, you can see both of them standing near the same area of the venue, not talking to each other, not even looking at each other, but positioned in a way that suggested an awareness of the other person that you don't have with a stranger. It sounds small. It is small. But it was the thread that started unraveling everything. Someone posted it. Someone else recognized it. And within 48 hours, a community of fans had collectively dedicated thousands of hours to going through every piece of publicly available footage of both actors from the previous 5 years. What they found was not scandalous in any traditional sense. There was no secret meeting exposed. No leaked messages. No unnamed source with a dramatic confession. What they found was subtler and, honestly, more compelling than any of that. There was a pattern of parallel choices. In multiple separate interviews from the same period, Barış and Elçin gave strikingly similar answers to questions about what they look for in a partner. Not word for word similar, but thematically. Both spoke about the importance of honesty in ways that went beyond the usual rehearsed celebrity answer. Both mentioned, unprompted, how difficult they found it to connect with people who couldn't separate the public version of them from who they actually were in private. Both described, in different words, a longing for someone who understood the particular loneliness that comes with a certain level of fame. Now, you could dismiss that. Lots of people in the same industry have similar experiences. That's not evidence of anything. But then fans noticed something else. Between 2019 and 2021, there are multiple documented instances of Barış and Elçin being in the same city at the same time, not for any professional reason that was ever publicly announced. Not on set together. Not at the same event. Just apparently in the same place. Fans cross-reference travel content from both of their social media accounts, backgrounds and photos, locations tagged by mutual friends, and found overlaps that are difficult to explain purely by coincidence. Again, individually, none of this proves anything. But the pattern was building. Then came the photo analysis. And this is where things got genuinely interesting. A fan who describes herself as a professional photographer began breaking down the lighting, framing, and stylistic choices in photos that both Barış and Elçin posted over a 3-year period. What she discovered was that on several specific dates, both of them posted photos that appeared to be taken in locations with identical natural light conditions, suggesting the same time of day, the same general weather. And in some cases, what she argued was the same direction of outdoor light. Her conclusion, which she was careful to frame as a theory rather than a fact, was that some of those photos may have been taken in very close physical proximity. The post went viral within the fan community. Some people thought it was a stretch. Some found it completely convincing. But almost everyone agreed on one thing: once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. And then Barış did something that nobody expected. In a 2021 interview that has since been watched several million times and is currently being dissected in frame-by-frame detail, he was asked about his ideal type. He gave a long, thoughtful answer. He talked about intelligence. He talked about emotional honesty. He talked about laughter. Standard answers, delivered well. But at the very end of his response, he said something that fans have now isolated as potentially the most revealing thing he has ever said publicly. He said, and this is a direct quote, "I think the most attractive thing about a person is when they're completely themselves, especially in the moments they think no one is watching." At the time, it was barely commented on. The interview moved forward. Nobody flagged it. But in the context of everything fans have since uncovered, that sentence reads completely differently now. Because both Barış and Elçin have, throughout their careers, been known for being extraordinarily difficult to read in public. They control their image with a precision that is rare even in an industry full of people who carefully manage their public personas. The idea that what attracts him most is someone being completely themselves when they think no one is watching, that's not a generic celebrity answer. That's specific. That's personal. And paired with everything else fans found, it stopped sounding abstract. Now here's where it gets more complicated. Because Elçin Sangu was, for years, in a publicly documented relationship with someone else. And Barış Arduç has spoken in interviews about previous relationships with genuine openness. So any suggestion that there was something secret happening between them during those years requires a level of speculation that is, frankly, unfair. What fans are actually saying, when you cut through the noise, is not that there was something hidden and inappropriate. What they're saying is that there appears to be a connection between these two people that predates anything official, and that looking back, the signs of that connection were always there for anyone paying close enough attention. And that is a very different kind of story. It's the story of two people who exist in one of the most surveilled industries on the planet, who managed to keep something genuinely private for longer than most people would believe was possible. And the reason they were able to do it, fans now argue, is because they understood something fundamental about public attention. The best place to hide something is in full view, as long as you never draw attention directly to it. Think about how both of them handled media questions about their personal lives during those years. Elçin was always warm but deflective. She would answer personal questions in a way that felt intimate and honest, but never actually gave you anything concrete. Barış was the same. Thoughtful, open-sounding, but never actually revealing. They both gave interviewers the feeling of vulnerability without the actual vulnerability. It was, from a media management perspective, quietly brilliant. And then something shifted. Around 2022, fans began noticing a change in how both of them were presenting themselves publicly. It was not dramatic. There was no announcement. No official statement. But the energy was different. Elsin's social media content, which had always been carefully curated, started feeling slightly warmer. Less controlled. There were moments that felt almost unplanned, which for someone as image-conscious as she has always been, stood out immediately. Barış, meanwhile, started giving interviews that felt more grounded. Less performative. The careful distance that had always been a part of his public personality began to feel slightly less present. Not gone, but softer. As if something in his private life had settled in a way that made the performance of privacy less necessary. Fans who had been watching both of them for years picked up on this almost immediately. And when they went back through the previous year's worth of content with this new lens, the hidden details started appearing everywhere. There's a moment in a podcast interview Elsin gave in late 2022 where she laughs at something the host says and then catches herself, and for half a second her expression changes into something private. Something that looks like she's thinking of a specific person in a specific moment. It lasts less than 2 seconds. Most people watching wouldn't notice it. But for fans who had spent weeks studying her public expressions, it was impossible to miss. There's a photo Barış posted in early 2023 that, on the surface, is just a landscape. A beautifully composed shot of an outdoor space, warm light, completely unremarkable. Except fans identified the location. And they noted that Elsin had posted a photo taken from what appeared to be the same general area within a 24-hour window. Neither photo tagged the other. Neither referenced the other. But the overlap was there. Now, here is the critical thing to understand. All of this is fan analysis. It is observation, comparison, and theory. None of it constitutes confirmed fact about the nature of their relationship or the timeline of anything. What it constitutes is a portrait, built from hundreds of tiny pieces, of two people who seem to have shared something significant, managed it with extraordinary discretion, and left behind more evidence of it than they probably intended. And fans are not angry about this. That's the remarkable part of this story. The community that has been doing all of this digging is not doing it to expose or embarrass. They're doing it because they find it genuinely romantic. Two people in a world of total surveillance who figured out how to exist in the same orbit without giving anything away until they were ready. There's something almost old-fashioned about it. Something that feels out of step with an era where everything is immediately public, immediately analyzed, immediately consumed. People find that beautiful. And then there's the work itself, because you cannot talk about these two people without talking about how extraordinary they both are as performers. And fans have noticed something there too. When you watch Barış Arduç play a character in Love, there is a specificity to it that critics have always acknowledged but struggled to articulate. He doesn't perform love in the way that most actors do. He performs what it costs. The vulnerability of it. The way loving someone specific changes how you hold your body, how you occupy a room, how you listen when they speak. It's rare. It's studied. And some fans, looking back at work he did during specific periods, have begun to wonder whether some of that specificity was coming from somewhere very real. The same has been said about Elsin. There are scenes in her work that have been analyzed by fans as carrying an emotional weight that feels less like acting and more like channeling. Specific scenes in specific projects from specific years. And when you map those years onto the timeline that fans have constructed from all their research, the correlation is difficult to dismiss entirely. What this entire investigation has really done is invite people to look more carefully. Not just at these two people, but at the gap between what public figures show and what they keep private. At the extraordinary amount of unseen life that exists behind even the most heavily documented careers. At the way we consume celebrity in an age where we feel entitled to everything and yet somehow still find ourselves surprised when something slips through our assumptions. Barış Arduç and Elçin Sangu are not the first famous people to keep something private. They are not the first to be analyzed by fans looking for hidden details. But something about this particular case has resonated in an unusual way. Maybe because both of them have always projected such careful authenticity. They're not manufactured stars. They're artists with real credibility and real craft. And so the idea that they manage to be fully human in private in a way that was genuine and unperformed, while still maintaining that public precision, feels like its own kind of achievement. People who follow Turkish entertainment closely have commented that the cultural context matters here too. Turkish celebrity culture, while intensely interested in the personal lives of its stars, also carries a different kind of relationship with privacy than Western celebrity culture does. There is a respect for certain kinds of discretion that exists alongside the intense fan interest. And both Barış and Elçin have always navigated that particular tension with more grace than most. The fans who started this entire conversation are not, for the most part, the aggressive or invasive kind. The community that formed around this investigation has been remarkably self-aware about what they're doing and why. There have been ongoing conversations within the group about the ethics of fan analysis, about where genuine interest becomes intrusion, about how to engage with someone's public record without making assumptions about their private life. That kind of self-reflection is unusual and honestly refreshing. And somewhere in all of that, the real story emerged. Not a scandal, not an exposure, not a conspiracy, but something quieter and more moving than any of those things. Two extraordinarily talented, intensely private people existing in an industry that demands total transparency, who figured out how to hold something close. Who built something, whatever that something was or is, away from the cameras that follow their every professional move. Who left, in the public record, a trail of small moments that almost nobody noticed until someone looked back and connected the dots. The last detail fans uncovered is, somehow, the most affecting. It comes from a fan video compilation that someone put together recently, pulling together moments from both their careers over the past several years. Not staged moments. Not red carpet moments. The small ones. A half smile in the middle of a sentence. A pause before answering a question. The way both of them, independently, in completely different contexts, seem to go somewhere private for just a fraction of a second before coming back to the room. It's 3 minutes long. It has been watched over 2 million times. And the comment section is unlike anything you usually see on the internet. Thoughtful. Warm. Full of people saying that they don't know exactly what they're watching, but that it made them feel something they couldn't quite name. That might be the most honest summary of this entire story. Nobody knows exactly what they're watching, but something about it is undeniably real. Something about these two people, in the small unguarded moments between the performances, tells a story that all the official interviews and curated posts never quite could. And now that you've seen it, it's impossible to look at either of them the way you did before. The hidden details were never really hidden. They were just waiting for someone to look closely enough. What do you think? Let us know in the comments.